So we've talked a lot about acids and bases, and sometimes the two of them can combine and produce new products. This is called a chemical reaction. Now, chemical reactions don't just happen between acids and bases. They can happen between a number of different things, but there are a couple of similarities between them. So what are the signs of a chemical change or a chemical reaction? You would have already done an experiment in class looking at different types of reactions and some of those changes that may have been evident. So what are those signs? You should have noticed that a colour change occurred. A gas may have been produced, and you may have seen that in the form of fizzing. You may have seen a precipitate form. A precipitate is that insoluble solid that falls out of a solution. We may have seen that the temperature changed, rise or fall, and you may or may not have noticed an odour change. Now, when we do these chemical reactions, new products are formed, and the way we communicate this is in the form of a chemical reaction. So chemical reactions are a way of determining what the reactants are and what the products are. And we do that in the form of a word equation. So on the left-hand side of our equation, we have the reactants, and on the right-hand side of the equation, we have our products. So an example of this is magnesium plus hydrochloric acid. Magnesium and hydrochloric acid are our reactants, and the arrow indicates the direction of the reaction, and it kind of means forms or produces, and on the right hand side are our products. And in this case, our products are magnesium chloride and hydrogen gas. So how do we write these word equations? The first step that we need to go through is to first of all identify what are the reactants and what are the products. Once we've done that, we put the reactants on the left hand side, our products on the right, and they are separated by that arrow. Now, we've talked about our products that are being formed. Some of these products that are being formed are called a salt. In the general equation that you're going to see in the next few experiments that you're going to do, you're going to notice that a salt is produced. Well, what is a salt? A salt is a group of compounds that are formed from a metal and a non-metal. Now, the name of the metal comes from the base that is reacting, and the non-metal from the acid. So our most common form of a salt is our table salt. And we've discussed this in class already and have said that its chemical name is sodium chloride. So the sodium comes from our sodium hydroxide and the chloride comes from our hydrochloric acid. What we're going to do is a number of different reactions. But to help you work out what the salt is in all those reactions, we need to be able to determine what the product is. We've already talked about the metal comes from the base and the non-metal comes from the acid. But how do we know what they're called? Hydrochloric acid always will form our chlorides. Nitric acid will form nitrates. Sulfuric acid will form sulfates. And reactions with oxygen will form our oxides. So we're now going to introduce a whole host of reactions that we're going to perform over the coming weeks. You're going to need to know how to name that salt from the slides that we've just taken. So what I'd like you to do is take some notes from this video, and we will be using those in the coming lessons.